Hi everybody, it's Vicky with Get Messy NL. Hope everybody's doing good. Today's YouTube video, we're going to do a recap of a painting we did with Parks Canada over Canada Day. And what you're going to need is your canvas stenciled out with the image that was in the kit. You can cut this image out and trace it through or use tracing paper. Then you can grab your paintbrushes, a cup of warm water, a paper towel, and a palette or something that you can mix your paint with. So the first thing that we're going to do today is use our white. And for the white, we're going to actually paint the moon. So even though the moon here is white and the canvas is white, we still need to paint the white because it gives it more of a finished look. So you're just going to come along. I know it's probably hard to see here, white on white, but just go ahead and do that white. And one coat should be sufficient. Just something to get a base. And come around these edges, like so. There we go. And I'm just evening out my paint now. It's very important that your paint is even. If you glop on too much, it will take forever to dry, number one. Number two, you're just going to keep picking up that color as you paint. So make sure you do a thin coat of the white. Now you're going to rinse out your brush and wipe it off on your paper towel. I like to reshape my brush as I wipe on the paper towel. This time now I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush because I'm going to need to do this background. So for the background, we're going to do navy blue and pink. So I'm just going to put some navy blue on my palette here. And take my pink out. And what we're going to do is, starting with the navy blue on my brush, I'm just going to go from one end of the canvas straight to the other like this, making sure to get your top and the sides as you go. And a trick to get a nice even flow of your paint is to make sure you're blending from one end straight to the other. If you kind of pick up your brush and do this, you're going to start seeing your brush strokes. So get that color on there and then make sure you're going from one end right to the other, like so. So we're going to go around our moon. This is why I like this brush, because it gives me an angle. Also, your first coat of paint will, the canvas will kind of eat it up. So you do need to use a fair amount for your first coat. And so for the first coat, we're just going to go along here. And whatever you find the easiest. So I'm just going to outline like this, makes it easier. Again, I'm not glopping, but just putting that paint on, but then smoothing out my brush strokes. So going from one end straight to the other. So I like to get that paint on there. You also have to forgive me because the angle I'm working on here isn't the easiest. I'm going to come around the sides here too. Remember, pull that paint like so. As you can see my brush strokes. So I try not to see those. And I'm just kind of, and it doesn't matter if you go in a little bit, because when we paint over the Cabot Tower later, we can cover in any of that. Also keep in mind when we do these YouTube videos that you can pause at any moment if you need to catch up. That's why we like these YouTube videos. So again, I'm just kind of filling in for my first coat. Going around the moon like so. And use the shape of your brush. They're different shapes for a reason, so you can do different things with them. Make sure to come along the sides. That gives it a finished look if it's not going to be framed. And again, I'm just tracing out, and then I pull my brush strokes so that they're not easy to see. And again, it's only the first coat, so not a huge deal. Just like so. So as this is drying, I still want it to be slightly damp as I go in with my blue and my pink again. So what I'm doing is I'm putting blue on my brush and pink on my brush at the same time, like this. Now I might need a little bit more, but this is what's going to give that effect. So this time I'm going to use the side of my brush instead of using it this way. Sorry, it's hard to see. Instead of going this way, I'm flipping it to use the side. This time, as my paint is still a little bit tacky, I'm going to start pulling some pinks and blues throughout here, going from blue to pink on your brush at the same time. So the trick is not to blend too much. If you blend too much, you're just going to create another color, which is going to be purple in this situation. I'm trying to lift it up a little bit more here for you guys so you can see. There we go. We don't want to be blending into a purple. We really want to be seeing those blues and pinks together. So like I said, using the different angles of your brush, just start pulling pink through. And I'm lifting my brush as I go. And just kind of play with it. Take your time and play with it and see kind of what it does when you mix it together. This time as I go, I'm going using the side of my brush. I'm going to go in like this and see how I'm just letting that brush disappear. I'm going to need a little more blue here. So you want to see mixes of the navy, the pink, and little bits of the purple that it creates. But you don't want to turn it too purple. So the trick is just knowing when to kind of stop. So see how I'm pulling and just letting it disappear through the moon. Now this time I might go in with just pink without blue on my brush and just start kind of letting that flow over the moon ever so lightly. Now you don't want to cover that moon in either. So you're just doing little bits to make it look like a hazy kind of day or night. And I'm just making my way down, lifting my brush as I go. So I kind of go and then let my brush disappear like this. So I'm kind of pulling through, and then lifting as I go. Just like so. It's supposed to be, I guess, like a sunset. And play with it. If you don't like how it looks, let it dry, paint it over. But just kind of play with that. Letting your dried brush kind of flow over. Like so. So I might want to come in with a bit more pink the lower I go into my painting. So that towards the bottom, it's going to be mostly pink. Just like so. Same with this side. So I pretty much want the bottom part to be pink, because that's what sets the sunset, right? So using my brush going this way or this way, I'm kind of pulling back and forth. Now you can also go in with just your navy as well if there's little spots that you might want to fill in. Just like so. See, nothing to it. Super easy. So the next thing that we're going to do, you're going to rinse out your brush again. Just see a few spots now for me to touch up on the sides. So I'm going to go in now and rinse out my brush. Nice and clean. Dabbing it in the paper towel. So this time we're going to be using some black and some white. And I'm going to use the same squared off brush because I'm doing little angles in the signal hill here. So what I'm doing is going with just the black, similar to what we just did up in the sky with just the blue first. And I'm going to just start shaping my Cabot Tower here. Like so. And again, the angle I'm on isn't the best. So you'll have to forgive me. Normally I'm standing up and painting because I can't sit. I have a little hair in my brush. Those little pesky hairs sometimes can be a pain because they'll leave little marks that you don't want. Now if you find it easier to use a smaller brush and you have brushes at home, feel free to use whatever brush works for you. And all I'm doing is going along the edges here to make my edges look finished. And as you can see here, I'm using my pinky, actually. I don't know if you can see that, but I rest my pinky along something that's not painted wet. That gives you a sturdier hand. See how I'm just using the rotation of my fingers and my wrist? Gives you a sturdier hand. Now to get around the star there, it might be easier to use a smaller brush when you get to that point. So I'm just going ever so slowly around the star here now. And again, I might get myself a smaller brush to do that. So So you should always have a few different sizes. There we go. There we go. So I'm going to go back in there now in a few minutes with a smaller brush and go around that star. But for right now, all I'm doing is going to pull this black from one end to the other. So using the side of my brush like this, I'm going to create a few little mounds like so, and then just start filling in. So this is almost like a shadow. Now if you do enough and pull enough, you should do this in one coat of black paint. But if you need to fill in a few little spots, actually no, you don't. Because if you do one coat here, when we go in with some white now in a minute, we're going to create a second coat. So I wouldn't even worry about it. Just do one coat of your black all around and fill it in. There we go. So now I'm going to get my smaller brush here. And I'm going to pause the video for a second just so I can fill in around this star and pick up my canvas. So I'll be right back.